Friday mailbag show. Let me turn my heater off here. I think that background noise gets in there. So hello, it's Friday. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, of course, but we're doing week 2. You know, consistency's not always been my forte. I've said I will do many things that only last for a little bit, but this is week 2 of the weekly mailbag show. Shouldn't be a problem. You know, Fridays in the corporate world are typically a little bit slower, so still not a ton to answer questions about. Most people haven't built a fantasy roster, which will be the main points of the questions. You know, when the season gets going, it's what should I do? Trade this, drop this guy, whatever. So again, MLBdatawarehouse.com/P for page/mailbag if you want to submit a question, or if you're on a desktop, just go to MLBdatawarehouse.com and the mailbag link is at the top in the navigation. So quickly, maybe some news. Hunter on MLBdatawarehouse.com, I quote unquote hired him, right? Like, not official, but he's been doing the news stuff and breaking down trades and signings and stuff. So done a nice job on that. We're not going to have one for Mackenzie Gore, but Gore goes to the Rangers. Not sure what you would. I mean, do you need me to comment on that? I guess that the whole point of this whole operation is for me to comment on baseball things. Not really. I guess the tools are more of the play, but yeah, big move for sure. Gore, remember, you always remember the beginning of the season more strongly because you're just like, you know, you're extra into it and you're super excited about everything to get going. Remember, Gore had that, I think it was it 14 strikeouts, no walks against the Phillies on opening day last year. So that was pretty exciting. And then he was looking like, I'll pull up his profile here just in case you're not aware of the story with Mackenzie Gore. I mean, he's been one of the toughest guys to figure out. Super high highs, super low lows for Gore. And now he's on the Rangers. So let's pull this up. We'll stop that. And share screen window. That one. If you're watching, you'll see some stuff on the screen as always. So Gore last year, here's the plot over here. So I have this JA ERA 5-game rolling average, which I like a lot personally. And that will show you the rolling, you know, their JA ERA over every 5 start stretch. If I could move my screen over. So here it is. And what you can see is that first start, he put up a minus 1.69 JA ERA. It's basically like a Sierra xFIP type stat. And you can just see how good he was until June. So he had, if we look at, let's go ahead and look at that last year. The point with Gore is that, like what I've already said and what you probably already know, like very high highs and very low lows. He had 12 starts to start the year with the Nationals last year with a 36% K rate and a 7% walk rate. I mean, a 29% K minus walk, 17.4% swing and strike rate, 294 JA ERA, 198 JA Sierra. Just absurd numbers. Fastball, curveball, slider, changeup. All of those had ridiculous swinging strike rates. 20% on the curveball, 27% on the slider, 20% on the changeup, and even his fastball was very good, 12% swing strike rate for the 4-seamer, and that's very high for a 4-seamer. I mean, it was just absurd. He had all 3 things working at the same time, and he's had trouble. He's never really had trouble with strikeouts. So if you're a Rangers fan, you can be pretty confident you're going to see the guy mowing some dudes down, but he's had big issues in the past. They've come and gone with walks and with home runs. So those are the 3 things that the pitcher controls. Those are the 3 main things you're going to look at when you're evaluating a pitcher, trying to figure that out. It really is that simple. I mean, you can do a pretty good job if you just picking those 3 things. Now, there are certain things that you might want to expound on within each of the 3 of those categories. But yeah, Gore's had trouble with walks. That's been the main problem. And he's had trouble with the home run at times. So we'll pull up his actual Fangraphs page just to kind of show you that. And he also, I think, had some injury stuff going on. I remember he came up with the Padres as a top prospect and just kind of didn't go well for him there. His first 2 years, he had a 4.5 ERA with the Padres and then a 4.42 mark. The career ERA is 4.19. You can see the strikeout rates 23%, 26%, 25%, 27%. So a steady increase there and a pretty nice floor. I mean, at his worst, these last 3 years, he's been at 25%, which you'll take. The walk rates 9.8, 8.9, and 9.4 in these last 3 full seasons. Not great, but not a huge issue. He had a 12% walk rate in that 2022 season coming up with the Padres, and it looked like that could be a real dagger for him. But clean that up, it's still a 9.7% career and probably 9.2, 9.3% over the last 3 years. Home run rates, this is the other thing, right? He didn't have trouble with that in 2022, but then in 2023, he gave up 1.78 home runs per 9, cut that down to 0.8, like a way over correction. That was an elite home run per 9 rate, 0.8. And then last year, settled in the middle at 1.13. That 1.13 is probably, I think that's right around the league average, 1.2 or something like that. And he's a fly ball pitcher for sure, not a ground ball guy. So that can turn into some home runs. But it's a park. I don't know, actually. You don't know with Texas, right? We talked about this in the Rangers preview. Where did I go here? Sorry. The Rangers park has been a hitter's park from like 20, from whenever we kind of started measuring it until like 3 years ago. And then all of a sudden these last 3 years, the last 2 years in particular, it's been a crazy pitcher's park. And I don't know what that's about. Like I pontificated about it in there and they didn't change the dimensions. The weather hasn't been any different on average. Like if anything, it's been a little bit more humid in Texas in the summer, but it's just for whatever reason, there must be something with the baseballs. I don't know, a change in the humidor. Every park has a humidor now, right? But something's going on. There's no guarantee that it stays that way, but I would say that you could consider this very possibly if the Texas park effect stays the same in 2026, then it's a park upgrade for Gore. But overall, I would treat it just like kind of neutrally. I wouldn't really be moving him in the rankings too much, maybe up a couple spots because it's a better team he's going to. I mean, the Nationals were the 3rd or 4th worst team in the league last year, and they certainly aren't improving for this year. So maybe a couple more wins. But it's really just about, like, can he be consistent? Because what we didn't even talk about, I only gave you half the story there, and then I moved on, got distracted. The other half of the story was that he had absolutely terrible numbers after June. From June 1st on, he ended up getting on the IL. I don't know. I suppose it kind of seemed like that was like a mercy IL stint. He was just getting pummeled. But probably the more logical explanation is something legitimately wasn't right, because he went from those crazy heights that we just talked about. And then after June, his last 18 starts, 21% K rate, almost an 11% walk rate. So the K to walk dropped 19 points. He went from a 29% K minus walk to a 10% in the second half. It was just all bad. He had a 4.3 JA Sierra, 3.84 JA ERA. Still okay, 12.6% swing strike rate. I mean, he was still getting some whiffs, but just didn't have the command, totally lost it. And then everything follows from there. He wasn't like giving up a ton of home runs still, but he just didn't have the command. And that's, if you don't have command, you don't have a whole lot in the major leagues. So the Rangers will be hoping that they can get 6 months of relative command from him. I don't think he's a great bet to be like an SP1 at this point, but with the price being what it is, I mean, we can look at that. Maybe a slight uptick in the price now since some team gave him a vote of confidence, and we already saw him trailing down a little bit, but he's at around, he was hovering around pick 200. He'd go between 180 and 220 for a while there. In these last 3 days, he's gone 180, 176, and 154. Just yesterday on the 22nd, somebody took him at 154. I have the auction trend here. Let's actually show this. So the NFBC ADP dashboard has gotten a little bit of an upgrade. I told you I'd put auction values on there when they come, and I have done that. So you can see that. There's only 6 auction drafts in here so far. Gore's gone for as little as $3 and as much as $8. A lot of that stuff it varies draft to draft. If dudes spend like crazy early on, then that changes everything. It depends on when guys are nominated. I mean, auction drafts aren't the easiest to compare one-to-one. But they are probably the best way to draft, the most interesting, the most fun, and the results are the most telling about what these guys, these high stakes players really think of a guy. So that's the auction values are there. And then what I was just looking at, you can see this is the ADP trend here. You can see it trailing down, and none of these would be, I guess last night's, I think this was a live draft champions draft on the 22nd. So that one was started and completed after the Gore trade. So I don't know, maybe that's just a little bit of an overreaction. I don't think I would go at 154 for Gore, but the upside is certainly there. I mean, you saw what he could do. If he even finds the middle there, like we compared the first and second half, 29% K minus walk, and then a 10%. Take the average there, it's 20%, right? 19%. Pretty good. And anybody with an 18% K minus walk or better without a huge home run issue, which I think Gore can do, like pretty nice. And but there's he's certainly a guy that you have the risk of being so bad or getting hurt or just having no command, and then you can't really stomach it. So high risk, high reward, that kind of play. At ADP 200, I feel pretty good about that. At ADP 150, if that's where we're going to go, like, that's a different story. So price is king, as always. So let's get into some of these mailbag questions. I've got the Stickies image file, not that one. I've got the Stickies app pulled up. I put them all in there. So we start with Rick's putting me to the test. I'm not going to, I said I would answer every question unless it's like unless it could get me in real trouble, And if it's not a serious question, but this is a serious one. Do you have any internal qualms about promoting DFS and betting? Yeah, Rick. So this certainly has to do with the faith that I proclaim. I'm sure. I think I've heard that before. Like, how can you be a Christian and also be into betting and stuff? And the answer, I could just say yes, I guess, and then move on, but probably worthy of a fuller explanation. And it is tough, right? This is the kind of the world you live in, where you have to there's temptations and stuff, right? So all of the money, for me, there's much more people willing to pay money to get betting related, DFS related stuff, because they're putting big money into that. So they're willing to pay for some tools and projections and stuff. For these guys that are dropping hundreds of dollars a day on bets and stuff, they don't mind at all paying $20 a month to help them if it's going to help them do a little bit better. So there is a temptation to just go like all in to the betting stuff, but that's never been the point for me. But as you can clearly tell, like, that is part of it. And when you start, there was never the intention. But when you make a daily projection model that's actually pretty good, like I've done, like that naturally leads to people using it, including myself, for games of predicting the future, which is betting and DFS primarily. So fantasy baseball, the one we're all kind of into, that's where this all started from. That it's essentially the same thing. It's just that there's a little bit more skill to it, and it's just a longer. You play one league for $50 or $100 or $200, whatever, and that's your one thing per year. It's one league per year. Maybe you do a bunch of leagues, whatever, but you get it. With DFS, it's one league per day, basically. So if like $100 is your kind of default unit to bet on, maybe you bet on or play into it, right? $100 fantasy baseball league is $100 a year and whatever, like not a lot of money. But if that's your default unit, then you're talking about a DFS slate for $100 a day. So that multiplies by 1 day, 30 times 6 months, whatever, and then betting wise, like these guys, you get into these guys that are really playing a lot of money. So is it a good thing? Like, I think that there's a similarity between season long fantasy baseball and DFS and betting and stuff. It's just that DFS and betting are more risky because there's so many more opportunity. There's, like I just said, it's exponentially more. So if you lose every fantasy baseball league that you play in a year, you're probably doing fine. You didn't lose that much money. But if you would go and lose every bet or every DFS slate, that piles up in a hurry. So there's more risk to it. Now, if you're going to do it, so the answer is that, first of all, the Christian answer, if you're interested in that, is that there's no like Christian, the Christianity the Bible describes is not, it's not a bunch of lists of do's and don'ts. There's a few do's and don'ts. There's 10 commandments. There is the overall commandment from Jesus to love the Lord your God and to love your neighbor. Those are the top two. But we're not really operating in that I need to just do this and do not do these things and then I go to heaven. Like there's freedom, there's liberty in this stuff. So there is nothing that says, in my opinion, Christian wise, I know it sounds convenient, but there is a Christian doing sports betting is not an inherent contradiction. It's not inherently a problem. Now, is it wise? Is it prudent for everybody to get into that? If you're what I tell a 21-year-old kid who really likes fantasy baseball and getting into this stuff and modeling and all this stuff, would I tell him to go ahead and that it's a great idea to open up a DraftKings account and start wagering? No, the upside is very little. You're probably not going to win long term, and the downside is possibly catastrophic. So I always say that I think it's good if you're going to do it. It's a form of entertainment, just like anything else. If you're responsible with it, you want to go spend $30 to go to the movies, or you want to spend $30 to bet on the Pirates and watch the game that night. What's the real difference, right? It's a $30 for your entertainment purposes. So that's fine. It's just that one can ruin your life, and I've never heard of anybody getting addicted to going to movies and blowing their whole savings on it. So I'll continue to just say we're probably not going to beat these books. It's pretty much rigged. Even if you're the best sports bettor DFS player in the world, DFS is a little bit different. So maybe we should separate those out. For betting, there's no way to win, in my opinion, unless you hit one of those crazy big one-time parlays, like you're playing the lottery and you hit that, and then that makes your whole thing for you hit once, like I did. I played a DFS slate one time and won $50,000. So I'm well ahead overall, but most people aren't going to hit that. And with betting, there is actually, with betting, there is an edge. You can use my projections and other projections and find these things in these niche markets and the pitcher strikeouts, maybe not that one as much, but hitter strikeouts, these smaller markets where you just have a model like mine that is actually better than the sports book, then yeah, you can win. It's not a total losing proposition. They adjust all the time, and it gets extremely hard to keep up with it and to keep up with the edges you have and to exploit them, because as soon as they realize they're losing on something and people are exploiting them, they change, they improve. So overall, for most people, unless you're the most disciplined, sharp person in their everyday, just not making bad bets, just keeping everything to your actual plus expected value situations, which do exist, but you have to be very, very principled. And this isn't me. I don't even really do this. I never claimed to be a profitable bettor or DFS player, but it's possible. So it's not to say that everybody that ever does it will lose and you're guaranteed to lose money. It's just that it's really, really challenging. And then if you are one of these people, this is the real kicker, the real kick in the pants, right? If you are one of these people who figures it out and you're a professional gambler or DFS player or whatever, and you find the edges and you're super disciplined and you're doing everything right and you're making a profit. Well, if you make too much profit, they just limit you. The sportsbooks cut you off, they boot you off, whatever. They have the power to just say, oh, you're one of the good ones that's costing us money. We'll stop you from doing it because we don't want you, right? They want the loser pick. So overall, it's a pretty snaky, pretty gross overall thing, exploitative and everything. And yeah, if there's a button on my desk that I could click and say that sports betting is totally gone forever, I probably hit that. That would put some people out of work and stuff. But let's just imagine the hypothetical that I hit the button and it's as if it never even happened. So nobody is immediately overnight affected, right? I would hit that button for sure. I think it would be a better world to live in with that stuff doesn't exist. But if it does exist, and I can help people maybe have more fun and be a little bit more profitable, or at least avoid losses, loss reduction, then that's kind of the game here. But I do always, I understand your question, and I felt it, and I've wrestled with it, kind of as you can tell. And maybe I should just stay away from it. But it's the projections are so good for it, and I feel I sleep fine at night. I think it's fine. I don't think it's sinful inherently, sports betting, DFS playing and stuff. Now, if you start getting addicted to it, then yeah, that does. So slippery slope. But just everybody always note that I do not guarantee anything. And I do think overall, like 95% of people that get into this are going to lose some money. So just you just understand that and just play it as an entertainment. Like entertainment costs money, and this is just another form of entertainment that costs money. So if you think I'm a big hypocrite, I don't even I kind of see where you're coming from and can bail on me or yell at me, whatever. I think that's all fair. Okay. Next question from Caleb. Make this a little bigger. If you were drafting on Yahoo and were forced to only use their available stats, 2025 stats or 2026 Yahoo projections, which would you use? That's a good question. This question is basically, are Yahoo projections any good? And I guess you could, like we did with the other projection systems, ATC, Oopsie, my own, like you could go back and test them like we did. If your question was 2026 ATC projections, that's an easy one. Yeah, you use the projections because projections take into account the 2025 stats and they adjust them properly and give you a better idea for 2026. So the good projection models will always be better than just guessing at what will happen the last year, for sure, no doubt. Even mine, like I would take my projection model over just using last year's stats every time, even though I don't think my projection model is the best. Yahoo, though, I've never seen it. I don't really even play on Yahoo, and I certainly wouldn't use it. And I don't think they have the secret sauce. So I would say 2025 stats, man. But again, you'd have to test that to actually say. But the point is to say that ESPN and Yahoo and these other sites, like they don't have any incentive to make good projections. Right? It doesn't matter. They just want them on the site to make it easier to play, so people can kind of use those to draft and feel confident and have more fun. Picking if you're just a casual player and you draft a dude, it helps you at least more with your confidence in your pick to say, oh, this guy's projected for this and that's what I need. Click. Even if it's a bad projection, a stupid projection, I'm sure they're not the worst thing in the world. It's not like they're random numbers. They're based on something, but I just don't imagine that Yahoo, ESPN, et cetera, puts the proper effort into their projections because there's no incentive to do it. I don't even really understand why ESPN runs fantasy baseball leagues at this point. That has to be a huge money killer, right? I don't understand how CBS can pay people to do fantasy baseball stuff. I don't begrudge that at all. Like the CBS Fantasy Baseball podcast, obviously the best one out there. They do shows every day. Frank, Chris, Scott, and others. Like shout out to those guys. Incredible job they have, and they do a nice job. I don't understand how CBS. I understand how they pay them. I just assume that CBS is operating at a loss because, not because they do a bad job, not because of anything for them, but it's just like they don't make any. How do they make money? I mean, I guess CBS does have paid leagues, so maybe they do make money on the leagues, and that justifies it. I just think that CBS is obviously a massive corporation. They have all kinds of revenue and income elsewhere, so they're okay with taking small losses. It's not like it's a big deal. I don't think it really even shows up at their end of year budget statement, right, or their financial reports and stuff. Like, we would have made a big profit if not for the expenses we had going to this fantasy baseball stuff. But, and I could be wrong. Maybe the CBS leagues do pay enough for that. But like ESPN, they don't have paid leagues. The ESPN bet thing completely crashed, or they just decided to bail and join the other ones or whatever, and then make DraftKings the sponsor. But point being that Yahoo, ESPN, they are not making money from fantasy baseball, or at least it's not a significant part of their business model. It's just kind of something they've always done, and they keep it going just to, I don't know, be a buddy about it or something. So I would not trust anything from those sites that you can get from someone with a higher incentive to put out good projections. Like I have a pretty big incentive for my projections to be good, so I'm going to put a lot more effort into them. That's kind of my whole operation here. And like the daily ones, especially, like I want those to be very good. ESPN's daily projections doesn't matter. It doesn't change their business at all, but it changes mine quite a bit. If I get the best daily projection model out there, I make a bunch more money. So incentives matter. And so to answer your question, use the 2025 stats. But the real answer to the question is use ATC projections. Okay, that's the simplest answer. Phil, I don't see Jonah Tong in your projections. Is the thought that he's not going to be up this year? NFBC ADP is 305. Thanks for all you're doing on the site is awesome. And more grammar problems, guys. This should be OUYOU''RE. And is the thought that I think you missed a word here, but I get what you're saying, Phil. I don't know if this is my boy Phil that I've talked to a bunch probably is Fantasy Phil. Shout out to you. Big fan of the program and big, not a personal friend, because as I talked about in the last podcast, like, don't know any of you, can't call you any of you actual friends because I never met you, but I think I'm almost there with like Tim and Doc. I think I've talked to them enough. If you talk to somebody for like 500 hours online, I think then you get into actual friend territory, but we're not there yet, Phil. So let's answer that, because I looked at this a little bit before starting this, and the answer is that no, nobody is really projecting him to play enough to make the projections. And that is probably wrong, but especially, so this question was asked even before the Freddie Peralta acquisition. But if we look at the projections, we do have some, but Steamer has them for, where's the standard? We have that. Steamer has Tong for 3 starts. ATC has him for 9 starts. The Bat has him for 9 starts. Oopsie has him for 3 starts. My playing time projections run off of these other systems. I figured out which one was best last year, and I did some combination, some averaging, and that's where I get mine. So and I don't know, maybe everybody might kind of in some way flow off of Steamer. I'm not sure about that, but basically as soon as one projection system projects this guy's not going to play, then that can flow through. Don't quote me on that. I don't know ATC's. Steamer, the Bat, oopsie, they might have their own completely independent models. I hope they do. That would be for the best. But the answer to that is, like, I only show the projections for guys that are going to throw at least, like, either make 5 starts or throw 40 innings or something like that. And Tong just didn't qualify. Now, he was on the app for somebody had a projection for him on the MLB Data Warehouse app. So we had a projection for him from Steamer, I think. Yeah, Steamer had him in there to 29.8 innings, but he just didn't have enough. Although maybe an update needs to happen, because like ATC is actually the highest, and the Bat has him for 48 innings as well, so he should be showing up there. So there might be a bug, but general answer is that he just hasn't projected to play enough, and I guess that's the bigger question now, because a 350 ADP is assuming that he makes quite a few starts in the majors, and that ADP was established before the Peralta trade. But now we have a 6-man rotation predicted here by Roster Resource, which isn't going to happen. They're going to cut one down to 5, and Tong's not even in the 6. So Peralta, McLean are the clear 1-2. I think Holmes has done more than enough to stay in there. I mean, they moved him to the rotation, and he stayed healthy and did fine. He had a pretty good ERA last year. After that, David Peterson, I don't know, you could see him going to the bullpen, I guess, but he, again, another guy that did enough in the last few years to probably stay in there. Manaea Senga, I mean, Senga's in there. They're not moving him anywhere in his age 33 season. Like, he won't be long for the rotation down the road. Like, you're not going to see him in the rotation in 3 years, we don't think, but for now he's in. So Peralta, McLean, Holmes, Senga, I think are just total locks, and then Peterson, Manaea, maybe one of those guys goes to the bullpen, but they're the only 2 lefties. Tong's a righty as well, so they probably want both of those guys in the mix as well. Personally, I think like Manaea is a better middle reliever or something like that. But yeah, Tong, almost certain. And then Tyler McGill is in here too as he comes back. Not sure. Tommy John, I guess he won't be back. But Tong is down here projected to start in AAA. And that's a pretty much a guarantee that he starts in AAA unless they have multiple injuries in the spring. He didn't do well in the majors, and there was a lot of bad luck, as we've talked about, but certainly enough as a 21-year-old kid when they don't need him in the major league rotation. Not to say he wouldn't be one of the best 5. I think he probably could be. Christian Scott here as well coming back. It helped to get Brandon Sproat traded, but obviously that brought in Freddie Peralta. So if nobody gets hurt, if you probably need multiple injuries or people to really struggle to get Tong in the rotation, it'll happen. I 90% chance that this doesn't hold up, that these 6 guys don't hold up as a 5-man rotation all year. None of these guys you have a ton of confidence in other than Peralta and McLean. So Tong will get his chance, but the answer to the question is just that, he's not projecting to make the rotation, and that will quickly lower the playing time projection. And again, if could they leave him in AAA all year as a 21-year-old? I mean, if he's struggling, why would they bring him up? I don't think he'll struggle, but it's certainly possible that you just don't get more than a handful of starts from the dude. So that's the answer to that question. Thanks, Phil. I would not touch him at ADP 350, by the way. That seems crazy to me. And I imagine that ADP comes way up or goes way down, whatever you want to call it, just because the Peralta acquisition really pushes him back another slot. Brandon says, I'm now reading your Minnesota Twins preview, and there is a few mentions of fantasy points for plate appearances. Do you have any fantasy points projections, especially with scoring from the sites like NFBC, Underdog, DraftKings, anywhere with the JA projections? Yeah, this is a big oversight for me. I definitely should have had this going already. On the app, the web app for paid subscribers, I have the whole projections, but I don't have a points calculation, and that obviously needs to happen. It will soon, certainly by the time we're doing drafts. In the back of my mind, I'm like, points leagues drafts don't really happen until you're really into February, March. So I kind of figured I had some time, but people are doing Underdog and DraftKings best ball, not DraftKings yet, but Underdog best ball is big right now. So I absolutely need to add a points. What I'll do on the app, I'll show this again. I wish I could show two screens at once, but I got to keep flipping back and forth. What I'll do here on the web app is I will have a toggle. So this will be all new and improved for this year. I'll have a toggle here that says show points projections, and then it'll let you pick your scoring system too. And then it'll auto calculate the points projections, and you can always export them as well. And maybe even kick in a points per plate appearance and a points per inning projection as well. So I will do that possibly even today. So thanks for reminding me about that. So that will be helpful, and I'll do it. You'll have all these systems too. So if you don't like my projections as much, you can use Steamer, ATC, the Bat, or Oopsie, and get them all and do what you will with it. But for now, you can export them. I guess you couldn't. You probably couldn't actually export these and then calculate it yourself because I don't have the granular projections. But paid subscribers do have a link to. This is something I also haven't really publicized, but if you go to the resource glossary, paid subscribers should be familiar with this. There's a link to the 2026 MLB projections Google Sheet here. That will get you into the Google Sheet version of the projections, and at that point you can go into the hitters full tab and export that. This has all the granular projections, singles, doubles, triples, hit by pitch, strikeouts, walks. So you can go ahead and export that. That's only my projections, though. I don't have the full details for the other systems, but you can get that from Fangraphs. So you can make it work now, but I will add that to the app very soon. That'll be a good addition, I would say. All right, next question. If I bring the screen back. Let's do this. Do you have sortable F scores anywhere? Could I sort players by highest power, F score, etc.? Yes, that was Brandon. You need to go to the prospect dashboard. So now I got to switch screen again. I have to switch the screen again. Sorry for the people listening. Low production quality, as guaranteed at the beginning. Go to the resource glossary if you're not familiar with that. Go to the MLBDW prospect analysis dashboard, fire that up, and then go to the hitter grading, and there's your sortable F scores right there. You can sort by power, see that Mr. Raniel Rodriguez is the best with a 137 power score. Pitcher grades tab as well, and you can sort by that stuff as well. FERA, Travis Sikora, 128. Leads that, so you can sort that way. Jonah Tong, number 2 with the FERA of 125. Additionally, you can go by Tim's, where is it? Tim's prospect package. There's a lot of stuff going on here, man. Let's see, prospect package. You can buy Tim's full prospect package at you just search MLB Data Warehouse or reach out to me or go to this. I'll repin it so it's near the top. Let's do that. So go to MLB Data Warehouse in the app or online, and you'll see it there at the top. You can go buy his package for $30. That has all of the F scores for a ton of players, 750 players there. not quite. I don't think we have S scores for 750 on there, but on the dashboard or that. But buy this too, just because it has Tim's full ranking, 750 players plus ranked. That's by team or by position though, so it's not like he goes 1 to 750. He goes 1 to 150 with his top 150 prospects, and then just a bunch of other stuff, organizational rankings, a ton of stuff in there. So 2 ways to get that, but I would just go to the prospect dashboard and sort that. That's the easiest way to get the sortable full F scores. And I think we have 2 more questions. This one, Hunter, from Tyler, this one came on Twitter. Hunter Barco expectations. This is like a 3. This is a multi-part question here about the Pirates and some other stuff. So first, Hunter Barco expectations. I don't know. It'll be hard for him, I think, to make the rotation right away, but they don't have a lefty. I imagine that the Pirates sign a crappy left-handed pitcher like they have done the last few years. They have signed Heaney, and they got, they didn't sign him, but they had Bailey Falter, and they don't have those guys anymore. So they don't have a left-handed pitcher. So that might be Barco's foray. That might be his path to getting in there. He got to the majors last year, pitched out in relief. I don't think he's going to be a stud pitcher, but he's a big guy, 6'4", 235, has a pretty good sinker. Last year in the majors threw all of 3 innings, so can kind of wipe that out, but did well in the 3 innings, although, again, forget about it. Last year in AAA, in Double A and AAA combined, 2.81 ERA, 1.2 WHIP, a nice 27.8% K rate, but walk problems 11.8%. So again, he's a sinker heavy lefty, good velo and stuff. I think the floor is a little bit low, but in PNC Park, I think he could be pretty awesome at home run suppression and stuff. And if he can get even I think the best case scenario, you're probably looking at 24-25% K rate. That's best case scenario with a 8-9% walk rate. At that point, it's useful, but he's not a guy that has SP1 upside. But eventually he gets in there because the Pirates do. You want lefties, especially if you're in PNC Park. If it were up to me, I've always wanted the Pirates just to load up on left-handed pitching and left-handed hitting because the park is significantly different in left and right field. Right now, the projected rotation is wrong on roster resource. First of all, they have Carmen Mlodzinski as the 5. That's not happening. It's Skeens, Keller, Ashcraft, Chandler, total locks. I guess we can't call Ashcraft a lock, but after the trades of Burrow and Oviedo, it seems like they like that thought. So it's an all right-handed rotation projected. Again, Mlodzinski's not going to be in there. So is it Barco? Jared Jones will take a spot eventually. Do they give Barco a shot out of the gate? There is an opening, but they won't even need it until the second. They could do the thing where they kind of just go with 4-man rotation because you have the extra off days. So I wouldn't count on Barco. I wouldn't draft Barco at all. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's in the rotation all year. Now, he'll get a shot, and eventually he could be a pretty good pitcher for them. But if he does get in, it's because they fail to sign another guy, and they just want the lefty in there. But pretty low ceiling and pretty low projected output this year in terms of volume. But long-term, it's a lot better. And I just imagine, I think you'll see the Pirates signing Jose Quintana or Patrick Corbin or something like that pretty soon. I would imagine that happens. Brandon Lau, can he get eligibility in left field? No chance. Left field in PNC Park is a really tough position to play, and Brandon Lau hasn't played outfield for a long time. I know he's really bad at second base, and a lot of people have taken this fact. I mean, this is strange logic, right? So Brandon Lau is terrible at second base. So the reason, that makes people go to, okay, let's put him in left field. What? You think that he'll just be good at left field? And do you think you can't do damage in left field as a bad defender? Wouldn't you rather have a bad defender at second base rather than a bad defender in left field at PNC Park? I would give me the bad defense at second. How bad can it be? Just stop the freaking ball and then throw it to first. You have all the time in the world at second base. You're that close. But DH, I think he's just going to DH a bunch because Pirates want him for home runs, and they don't have any other good middle infielders. But I think that he's going to play. He'll play second when they need him to, and he'll DH as his primary way of getting in the lineup. And so no chance for me in the outfield. I don't understand why people are even getting that idea. That sounds crazy to me, especially Mangum in left field makes a lot of sense. O'Neal Cruz is center field. That doesn't go super well, but they're going to do that. What choice do they have? They're not going to DH O'Neal Cruz and then Brian Reynolds in right. So maybe if things get crazy desperate, but then they sign Jahostinson Garcia, the password, he would play left field once he comes up. So no for Lau in left field. Does your model like Gore to Texas? Already talked about that. So at the beginning here, prospect cost to acquire Skubal after seeing Peralta and Gore deals. Like in real life, I guess. Peralta didn't cost that much. It was 1 year of him, but it's 1 year of Skubal as well for anybody trading for him. So probably not as much as you think. I think if Skubal does get moved, it might be a little bit of an underwhelming thing because whoever gets him is going to have 1 year of him, which is super valuable. A contender should be willing to give up quite a bit for him because he's about as big of a difference maker as you can make for one player, right? But it's 1 year and then you lose him. Or if you're the Mets, do you want to trade him now, give up a bunch of, just take this example. I don't think the Mets are actually going to do this now. Certainly not. But the calculation would be, well, do we give up a bunch of prospect equity for Skubal when we could just not do that, wait a year, and then sign him in free agency? Because he's gonna be a free agent anyway. So you're gonna have to pay him the same big contract after this, unless you think that he'd be open to a quick extension or something like that. Like that would be the thing I could see. Okay, we kind of know ahead of time, and maybe, I don't know, are they allowed to talk to these players before they make a trade? Can they like go under the table and be like, hey, we're going to trade for you, but can we like work out an agreement to on an extension first? So if they could, if a team could gets him could guarantee an extension on him, he's certainly worth whatever crazy money he's going to get. He's the best pitcher in the league, up there, top 3 at least, and he's still pretty young, relatively. He's not, he's not 22 or anything like that, but. So it's going to be big, I think, but maybe not as big as you would think. The one, the crazy one, right, was, who was it? What, the Nationals? Yeah, the Nationals just got a ton. That's what you're talking about. The Rangers gave up a ton for Gore, so but Gore has more control. Different story. So Skubal being a free agent after this year makes a big difference, and I don't know. This isn't a good answer to your question. I'm saying a lot, but not a lot. So I don't know. That's not my expertise. But yeah, Skubal is a top 5 player in the game. So it's going to be costly to get him. If I were the Tigers, I would do it, though. I don't think the Tigers are winning the World Series now. And I don't think they're going to have Skubal on the team in 2027, no matter what happens. My boy Clint here throws in with the changes coming to Casey's fences. How often and how impactful are changes in park dimensions? Specifically, how impactful is it for home teams hitting splits and potentially pitching? We kind of projected it already with KC in that specific example. I'm going to put this away and bring the screen back now. Thanks for the questions, everybody. It depends, of course. The answer here is that it depends because not all park changes are the same. But we talked a lot about it with Kauffman Stadium. They're moving the fences in 10 feet in the alleys and a little bit in the corners, not at all in the center field, but they're also lowering the walls. And we updated the projections for that. And the regressed projections, which are always a bit conservative, those added 2 to 3 home runs to everybody. So keep in mind that home games are played, half the time. So even if you go from the biggest pitcher's park to the biggest hitter's park, it only affects half your game. So it's only a 50%. It only affects half the games. Like I just said, I just repeated myself. So it's a little bit limited in that, like they'll still be playing half the games where it doesn't make any difference what they did to their home park because they're not there. But it can make a big difference. And I think it's significant, right? Like you will see more home runs hit in Kansas City this year, significantly more, no doubt about it. Bobby Witt, if he stays healthy and he keeps doing the same things, of course, he will hit more home runs. Vinny Pasquantino will hit more. Vinny, I don't think he'll hit more home runs because he hit 32 last year, but the projection goes up. The expectations go up. Michael Garcia, everybody in the Royals lineup, right? And then same thing with the pitchers. They'll give more up. So it makes a difference just because the parks we've seen recently, we've seen Baltimore first go like extreme. I think in 2021 they they moved everything. I don't know why they did that. I mean, Camden Yards was always a big hitter-friendly park. It was where you wanted to go hit. It was one of the best hitters parks from 2020, from when I started paying attention, right? Like 2025 to 2019. One of the benefits of playing DFS is this stuff because you're like grinding every piece of information all day. It really does help your overall fantasy performance just because stuff much more playing DFS, grinding it every day. But Baltimore in 2021, before the changes, they had a 59% home run to barrel rate. They had a 978 slugging on balls in the air. So I have this resource here on the park factors, pretty useful for finding stuff like this. Air slug, I like that. I like that's a good indicator. Just look at all the balls that are hit in the air because ground balls aren't going to be affected by the park. You can't change the infield. The infield is the same. You can change the surface, I guess. You could put faster or slower grass, and then the fielders you put there are different. But the big difference comes with where the walls are, how big's the outfield, the air quality, or not the quality of the air, but the thinness of the air, course field, all that business. So I like looking at these. I like looking at home run per barrel and air slug. So in 2021 for Baltimore, when it was a hitters friendly park, 978 air slug, 59% home run to barrel. Then they moved that left field wall out. Outrageous. I mean, like, why did they do that? It's one of the strangest things I've seen in baseball. Like, okay, let's just completely bone over our hitters. It helps the pitchers, I guess. And at the end of the day, none of this stuff makes as a big of a difference because it applies to both teams, right? You don't get to move the fences just for your own team and then move them back when the other team's up or whatever. So it doesn't make a huge difference at the end of the day, but for fantasy, it certainly does. So they made that big change in Baltimore. They drop more than 200 points in air slug, which is just absurd. Home run to barrel goes to 40%. It bounced back up in 2023 to 46.5% barrel, home run to barrel, and a 794 air slug, but it was still a very, very pitcher-friendly park. And it stayed that way until 2024. After that season, they realized, like, okay, this isn't working for us. We suck, and we're kind of our team is more built offensively than pitching-wise. So we better move that fence back in. I mean, baseball's not like nothing else. You can't do this in the NFL. Like an NFL team can't be like, we're a really great running team, so let's make it so the other team has to play an extra defensive back. Let's change all the rules when we're playing at home. But they changed it to Baltimore, 53% home run to barrel, 886 air slug, came back up, 438 average. So it makes a big difference, and you can track it with the numbers. Park factors, you'll see, just track them, man. I mean, just go look at what these park factors were the year before it changed and the year after. To try to give and then even Detroit's another example. They were super, super rough for hitters for a long time. And I think 2 years ago, they made some changes. Maybe it was even last year. I think actually maybe it was last year. They made slight changes. It wasn't anything like what Kaufman did or what Camden did. Just very, very slight changes. And we saw the home run to barrel go up 3 points, which is significant. The air slug last year was 859 in Detroit. Is it still called Comerica Park? I don't know. That was the highest by far. So this stuff makes a big difference, and it's all predictable and it's all very useful. And you need to make sure you're using projection models that account for those park changes. I am sure mine does. I do that immediately. I'm not sure. You'd have to check with if you're wondering about the bad X and about ATC, like those guys that make those models are available on Twitter. You can go ask them, like, hey, did you put in these park changes for Kauffman and for I guess that's it, just for Kauffman Stadium yet? And they should answer you. I'm guessing Derek Carty did. He's kind of the best at this granular stuff, getting everything in. And then ATC just follows the other projections anyway, so I don't think ATC even uses their own park factors. They just kind of follow along. But I don't know, Clint. I hope that answered your question well enough. But an interesting discussion too, because baseball is the only place that just can change everything about the playing surface, and makes a big difference. So that's it. That was a 50-minute freaking mailbag pod, but I don't know. I hope it was fun for somebody. We'll talk to you next time.